Hey you guys, yeah, we need to talk. So, yeah, welcome back. This video's been coming for a good few days, and honestly, I don't know how to make this video, so I'm kind of winging it. It's been a really rough week, you guys. What's happened? Where do I start? Well, let's talk about my beautiful, wonderful, pain in the ass, brand new GTS 997 steering wheel that I definitely installed it on my car, and then I had to uninstall it. And uninstalling it, well, it didn't go well. So this morning I am getting out of the house for the first time in a couple of days. By the way, welcome to the polar vortex, which apparently has been catching the headlines around the world. Minnesota and parts of the Midwest, so cold at the moment. Oh my God. I haven't been out of the house in 4 days. We tried to leave the house. It's just been unbelievably cold. Anyway, I've got to get out of the house. I've got to make this video. I really want to tell you guys where I'm at with my mods. Some great news, some really terrible news. You know, I never said I was an auto professional. I am an auto amateur. I am, you know, and thankfully in the 2 years I've been working with cars and maintaining cars, I haven't really had too many setbacks. I mean, let's think. Yeah, I mean, okay, there was one time I was trying to restore my headlights. Didn't go so well. You know, 25 bucks down the drain, that's not the end of the world. What else? I've tried, in my 996, I tried to replace a couple of bits of trim and actually broke other parts of the trim, taking it off to get to other parts, and that cost me sort of $30, $40 here and there. Again, nothing big, but nothing major. I'm really lucky. Nothing major has ever happened to my car. Oh wait, there was one. My silver, steel gray, whatever it was called, 996. I was trying to take the wheel off, slipped with the bar, ended up scratching the paint just a little bit, but I touched it up. Anyway, nothing compares to the trouble I had trying to install my new steering wheel. So it started out beautifully. I had the lighting set up in the garage. I borrowed my friend David's kerosene heater, so it was nice and warm in there. I had, you know, the lighting just right. I had a couple of different, I had a GoPro on one side, I had my camera on the other. You know, I was really looking forward to making a great technical, like, you know, how-to guide. The original steering wheel was like 8 out of 10 easy, so maybe 2 out of 10 difficult to take off. It went super smoothly. You know, as described or as researched, and other people were telling me, yeah, the airbag was a little fiddly to get out. I had my Allen key up there, I was twisting it, I was pushing it, I was trying to figure out what I was pushing against. You know, it's a job you're basically doing it completely in the dark and blindfolded. But the airbag came out, the bolt in the middle came off. I had my Sharpie marker and, you know, I marked the little line just to make sure the wheel was going to be lined up perfectly straight if I was to put it back on or put the new wheel on. So taking the original wheel off, easy. I got some great footage. I was really proud of myself. It was going really well. So I then get to installing my GTS wheel. I put the wheel back on, I lined it up. Thankfully on the inside of the wheel, there's actually a little notch at the top to show you where 12 o'clock is. So I lined that up with my Sharpie marker, easy. Put the new bolt back in, you know, tightened it up, 37 foot-pounds or whatever it was, with my torque wrench, feeling pretty proud of myself, easy. So I thought, surely the hard part is over. Then comes the airbag. This little, excuse my language, fucker this little fucker. First off, I connect the airbag up, the 3 pins on the back, 2 into the back of the airbag, 1 into the steering column. It looked totally fine. It looked really easy. So I plugged it in. I made sure that it was lined up properly. I put it in, pushed it down, and click, it went in. Now, at this point, I thought, I'm home free. It's done. And the wheel looks so cool. I have got such a nice photo of the wheel in the car looking really cool. At that point, I'm taking the last part of my video and I'm like, okay, and I'm doing it all real time, you know, so you guys on the film that you're about to see this next clip, this is all in real time. I hadn't yet turned the ignition on. I connected the battery back up. I put the key in the ignition, and there I am on the camera, and you'll see. What happens? Yeah. The horn just keeps going off and won't stop going off. I'm like, okay, so is it the control module maybe? Is the wiring not the same? I had a multifunction steering wheel previously, even though I wasn't using it because of my OEM gear, my new Sony head unit. So do I need a new control module? Is it the wiring harness maybe that's wrong? You know, what could it possibly be? So at this point I thought, well, I guess I'm going to do some research. I did some research, but you know, I had to take the airbag out to get in there again. So there I am. Underneath, up goes the Allen key, nothing. I cannot get the airbag out. I absolutely cannot get the airbag out. And I am pushing in loads of different directions. At some point, the screwdriver and the Allen key that I'm using going backwards and forwards is going so far into the steering wheel, I'm looking at myself thinking, it should be going in like an inch. It's going in 4 inches. I've got to be careful with where I'm prodding around. And I was at first. But you know, within 2 or 3 little fiddles, yeah, I managed to get the airbag out. It doesn't like pop out, but it releases and I can get my fingers around the edge and I pull it out, and yeah, admittedly it didn't come out like as smoothly as the other one. There was definitely a little bit of like rub or something, or I don't know what, but maybe I just thought, oh, maybe I didn't have it in like 100% square. Maybe it was like 99% on but 1% off. I don't know. So that as I pull it out, take a look, check the connections, and think, well, you know, maybe I pushed it in too far. Maybe it was like pushing up against the metallic bits at the bottom and it was setting off the horn, and maybe that's why the horn's going on constantly. So I've got the airbag out of my hand. The steering wheel is in mint condition. The airbag is in mint condition. At this point, I could have just stopped. And I could have waited for the very next day when some of my friends were coming around from Minnesota Porsche and Pancakes to help me do some stuff in the garage. I could have stopped, but no. You know, I had like an hour before I was gonna like call it a night. I really wanted to get it done. I was desperate to get inside once the kids went to bed and actually make this video. You know, I really wanted to make this video and get it published the same day, and you know, let this be a lesson. If you hit a stumbling point, stop. If you're not sure what you're doing, stop. But I was convinced, pig-headed, stubborn. You know, I am English, but I'm also a little bit Irish, and I'm also a little bit Scottish, and I'm also a little bit French. So I don't know, you push all of that stuff together and you've got a bunch of sweary, drunk, arrogant stubbornness. I don't know, and I'm not saying where each of those things come from, but I bet you know, put those 4 cultures together, and unfortunately you sometimes get this stubborn, pig-headed you know, fool sat in front of you talking into the camera. I don't mean to offend anyone from those nations. I love them all. But, you know, I could have stopped. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to put it back in, and maybe it'll just be fine. Maybe it'll just be fine. So I'll put it back in. So I was very careful to line it up, pop the airbag back in, but same thing. It kind of just sort of sat there. Now, I've got the exact same airbag in front of me with a very similar wheel in this Cayenne. And you push on the airbag and it goes in. It actually goes in a couple of millimeters or whatever, or even like half an inch, and then pops back out. It wasn't doing it at all. It just sort of sat there. So at this point, and I turned the ignition on again, honk, the horn was just going off and on. So I am really like completely doing my nuts at this point. It is absolutely driving me round the bend. So at this point, I get out a slightly bigger screwdriver and I think I'm gonna get this airbag out and No, at that point, I just went back to the Allen key. Like, I'll get the airbag out and I'll just stop and, you know, I'll figure it out. But at this point, the airbag wouldn't come out. And this, I don't know if I can, I don't know if actually if I've got any photos now that I can show you, but I'll try and dig them out. But basically, there are 3 springs inside of the wheel. 2 of them sit at sort of like 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock looking at you. And they sit on the back of the airbag. And then you got another spring which sits at 6 o'clock, but it goes up and down, facing up, like up and down as you look at it, against which the wire goes across for the airbag release. So if you were to push up against it, you're pushing up against the spring, it releases the airbag, you get the airbag out. So I'm there pushing, trying to hit on this spring, and all of a sudden I just hear this like, ding, the spring has come loose. The spring that holds the wire in place to get the airbag out, the little fucker has come loose. Again, excuse my language. I don't know if I swear in my videos, but today I'm feeling very sweary. You should have heard me the other night when I was underneath the steering wheel trying to get this pissing airbag out. Again, excuse me my language. It probably doesn't offend anyone in the UK watching this, but I know that Americans get a little bit head up when you start dropping the F-bomb, or even worse. So there I am with this screwdriver, and I'm like trying to figure out, well, okay, so if the springs come loose, I've got to try and nudge it out of the way. How am I going to get the wheel off? I'm in panic mode now, and you know, I usually am pretty good at keeping my cool, but in situations like this, especially when it involves expensive technology, if you're spending $400 or $500 on anything, it had better work. You know, that you are expecting technology to work. When you're buying a steering wheel that costs $1,000 from a luxury car manufacturer, you expect it to work, not for it to fall apart. So things like this, and like, you know, gadgets like iPhones and Alexas and routers, when that stuff doesn't work and it drops connectivity and stuff, it's ridiculous. It shouldn't happen, and it's down to human error in the manufacturing process. I am sure, like 99% of the times, and that's why they have like lean methodology in manufacturing to reduce the margin of error in production. Anyway, couldn't get the airbag out. I'm pushing, I'm prodding. So I go back and I'm like, okay, I am gonna go and get a slightly bigger screwdriver and see if that just improves my odds of being able to find this piece of metal to push up and get the airbag out. Nope. Sometimes I think I've got it and I'm pushing, so I'm pushing higher and higher. So I'm thinking, all right, well, what do? I have to get the airbag off. I'm not gonna be able to drive the car like this. I didn't think about disconnecting the fuse to the airbag, sorry, to the horn. That would have allowed me to drive it to the dealership without the horn blowing. Somebody gave me that advice from the group like the next day, which unfortunately was too late. So that was happening. So I'm thinking, okay, I've got $1,000 wheel, I've got a $400 airbag. At this point, I'm starting to make a little bit of damage to the bottom of the wheel where the tiny hole is now getting bigger and bigger. So in my, you know, I guess groupthink kind of mode, thinking all by myself, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice the airbag so I can get to the steering wheel. Fair, kinda. But then I didn't know anything about airbags. Maybe I should have researched the airbag. So at this point, I'm like, I've got a knife in my hand, and I'm thinking, because I tried to cut open the hole a little bit on the bottom of the steering wheel to see if I could just get a flashlight in there and like push the metal myself, instead of just guessing in the dark, and that's adding to the frustration. I've got to turn the heat down here, actually. I'm getting a bit of a sweat on talking about this. Still, it was last weekend, so it's, no, it was last Friday, in fact, so it's still getting me a little hot under the collar. So I think, just, okay, look, I've got to save the wheel. I'm going to take out the airbag. I'm just going to do it. And I've got an hour before kids have got to go to bed, so I'm just going to do it. So I get the knife out, and I'm like texting all my friends on Porsche in Minneapolis, sorry, you know, Porsche Pancakes, whatever, while I'm doing this. Some of them are like trying to give me really practical kind of calm down kind of advice. Some of the others are like being like, hey, you know, rip it off. Oh, what are you going to do? That sounds like a really bad problem, you know, because of the horn, and, you know, don't blow off some steam. So I just end up losing it, and I think, right, I'm going to cut the airbag out, and I'm going to protect the wheel. So, dudes, it is hard to get the front of an airbag off. It is like trying to cut into brick, basically. So I cut the front of the airbag off, and then behind, it was actually kind of interesting in its own, even though I'm basically ripping up $400 and burning it, which it still makes me feel a little bit sick that I've done that. So I cut the front of the airbag off. I've then got the airbag in front of me. I pull it out. Oh, very nice. Airbag material, kind of feels a lot thicker than I was expecting it to. Kind of felt like woven fabric, not like a balloon like you kind of see in the movies. That was quite interesting. Cut the airbag out. Sat in front of me then is this big metal dome, which I presume has got the explosive charge underneath it. So I thought, fuck, I can't, again, excuse my language, I'm not going to try and drill through that. It's going to explode on me. There was no way to sign it kind of like without getting more sort of like powerful tools, in which case I would have definitely made more damage. I can't cut the airbag out. So, okay, I've now screwed the airbag. I can't get it out. And I can't get to the latches at the back. I thought I was going to be able to cut through, but the plastic is so much thicker than I was expecting. You wouldn't do it with a knife. You'd have to get a Dremel or something else. So I'm back to the steering wheel. At this point, I stop, and I'm like utterly depressed. My wife can't console me. Putting my kids to bed actually made me feel a lot better. My friends came over on a Sunday morning and like, should we talk about the steering wheel? Should we not? Is anyone going to mention it? And I think one of my friends came in, and I think it was Firestarter Steve, who started talking about it. And my wife was like, no, shh, no, it's too soon. Don't talk about it. Anyway, we talked about it. But the great thing was, while my friends Pat and Victor and David were helping us install some of the storage in my garage, and Luke was watching, which is pretty fun, Steve and Scott were trying to figure out how to get the wheel off. And my God, I owe those guys so many beers. We opened up the hole on the bottom of the wheel just a little bit more. And okay, the bottom of the wheel is now damaged, but I can probably fix it. And you know, how often are you actually going to look on the very base of your wheel? Not often. So a little plastic plug, maybe some leather, I don't know what. Maybe I'm gonna have to start again, but I think I can save the wheel. I still don't know the root cause though. So, you know, thinking like a technologist for a second, root cause analysis. I posted on Facebook. I've got a couple of friends online and on Instagram. A really nice guy in Perth, Australia, that did a wheel himself. He was giving me loads of great advice, so thank you there. Ron D, who does Franken Porsche on YouTube, and also is highly visible on the 997 Retrofit Facebook page. So helpful, giving me advice, sending me photos, giving me a couple of ideas. And I think ultimately it was a combination of factors. One, I didn't have the wiring harness flush down the side of the airbag. So that may have caused an issue with it getting stuck a little bit and not releasing. The spring on the bottom of the wheel, clearly that was also a problem. That wasn't allowing the airbag to release when you were pushing up, so that needs to be fixed. But also others have suggested putting some like electrical grease, or I can't remember the exact type of the grease, but some of the kind of grease on a couple of points on the airbag to help it go in and out a little easier. So those things probably were either the causes for not having them or the solutions if I do it when I get a new airbag. If I get a new airbag. But I'm still not 100% sure. So if I do get a new airbag, I'm gonna leave it out but connected and start the ignition. So it'll all be connected. Just to see if the horn continues to go off, because if the horn doesn't go off in that scenario, then presumably it's just the fitment of the airbag in the wheel, and it's not the control module, and it's not the wiring harness, or the connections or whatever. So I'll try that. But I'm at the point now where my car's sat in the garage with no steering wheel on it, because I'm actually afraid of putting my original steering wheel back on and putting the airbag in it just so I can drive it, and then ruining that trying to take it out if I get a new airbag. So I'm in limbo right now a little bit. So the plan is basically to find a new airbag, and I've got a lead on another one from the guys in Lithuania who got me this one. They've got a couple in stock, so that would be another $400 or $500 unfortunately. But I've got to get another new airbag, and then I've got to see if it works. And then if it all fits in and works properly, I've then got to repair the bottom of the wheel. So, you know, do I stop now and just go back to my OEM wheel, and just, you know, acknowledge the fact that I've got to eat the money that I've spent so far? Or do I spend, you know, 50% more basically and get the wheel done? That's kind of where I'm at. So thankfully the polar vortex is here, because I'm not missing out on any driving right now. If I took the 911 out, I wouldn't be able to get out of my driveway. There's so much snow and ice on the bottom of the road. I'm not going to be driving for another couple of months. So time's on my side. I've got to be patient. I've got to try and stay out of the red Ross zone, and just chill the F out, basically. So I'm, you know, help, advice. Please feel free to call me a Muppet and have a bit of a heckle, because it is hilarious actually if you sort of like take a step back and try and not take it personally. It's also depressing and tragic, and it's also stupid, and they're the kind of things that I find really funny. It's just a shame, unfortunately, that I've blown through $400 on the first airbag. But this is a nice memento. Maybe I can keep this in my wallet or something, and every time I feel like I want to throttle someone, I can just look at it and, you know, kind of find my zen again and take a deep breath. Oh, good God. Wheels are done. I'm going to pick those up as soon as I can find some time out of work and outside of dad duties to go to White Bear Lake and pick them up. Oh, and my broken leg has also stopped me from doing that. I can't lift anything at the moment, really. So lifting rims and tires, not cool at the moment. My garage floor is being delivered tomorrow, I think, actually. It was supposed to arrive yesterday, but the polar vortex stuffed that one up the delivery man's bum, so I can't get that one. So garage floor tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get it installed this next week. Probably I'm going to try and figure out how to do that with my leg. I might be installing it sat down on the floor, but maybe I need to be patient and just wait a little bit longer for that as well. But I've done that before, and I'm not going to screw that one up. That one's pretty straightforward, touch wood. And then what else? My cabinets should be arriving in the next week or so. Again, the weather has kind of delayed that, unfortunately. And Tuesday I'm getting the heating installed and the new electrical outlets and conduits. So it's kind of all coming together, even though the steering wheel fell apart horribly this week. But anyway, this is like a 20-minute or so video, and I apologize for just rambling at the camera, but I really needed this. I needed to kind of tell my story, even just to myself, because it's been a little bit upsetting, to be perfectly honest. I don't like failure, and I really don't like failing when I'm doing it to myself when I could have avoided it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay in touch, drop the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.